Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Tim Kelly, joined by Akeem Bale, and this is the Real Sports Talk. And Akeem, this was a good game for about the first 2.5 quarters, and then the Heat defense just swarmed all over the Spurs and allowed them to run away with a 103-84 blowout win, in which they finished the game on a 33-5 run to win. And the bottom line is that when the Heat needed to get it done late, they got it done. But certainly I think throughout the first 2 quarters, that wasn't how it looked. Because LeBron James, through the first 2.5 quarters, was not involved. He was extremely passive in this game and was really struggling from the field. And I think the thing that saved him tonight is early Dwayne Wade was good. Chris Bosh was hitting everything from the elbow. Mario Chalmers had a great game. Ray Allen had 13 points. 9 points from Chris Anderson. The Heat supporting cast for the first time in these playoffs really stepped up tonight in a game where Dwayne Wade didn't have a great second half. LeBron James didn't really have a good game at all until the game was really over anyway. So the Heat supporting cast, led by Mario Chalmers and Ray Allen, really stepped up and carried this team tonight.
They really did. They really did. As you said, it really wasn't all about LeBron in that first quarter, in that first half, because in a sense he really was just bailed out. He was only 2 for 10 at one point in the game. He didn't have the best game, I believe, at one point, if I'm not mistaken, at halftime. He had only a mere 4 points. But it wasn't all about LeBron because, like you said, everybody else on it. We've been asking for Chris Bosh to finally have a good game, and he had a pretty good game tonight. He had 12 points throughout this game, 6 to 10 shooting. He played 31 minutes, 10 rebounds. This is the type of game that we wanted from Chris Bosh. Also, like you said, Chalmers with 19, Wade with 10. So the Miami Heat, even though LeBron struggled for a lot of that game, they really helped out and they really were instrumental in the victory tonight.
Yeah, they really were. And the other thing that Chris Bosh did was he created a lot of second and third attempts by tipping the ball out. So he did a good job tonight, I thought, overall. Now, in the first quarter, Danny Green was really hot, and that didn't change throughout this game. Danny Green today ended up 5 of 5 from downtown, 6 of 6 overall from the field, 17 points, and really... excuse me, really, he was the only one on this team that had a great game tonight, because Tony Parker, who had a tremendous game one, was 5 of 14 tonight, only 13 points. Tim Duncan, who wasn't very good from the field in the first half, got hot in the second half in game one, and tonight he didn't get involved at all. It was 3 of 13, 9 points. Kawhi Leonard pulled down 14 rebounds, 6 of which came on the defensive side, 8 on the offensive side, but he only had 9 points. And then Thiago Splitter is about to be put on a poster because LeBron James had just an absolutely tremendous block on him. I don't care if the game was over or the game was a 1-point game. The bottom line is that Thiago Splitter was going up, and it looked like he was about to put someone else on a poster, and then LeBron just stood up. I don't know how he did that without fouling him, but he made one of the best blocks that I've seen in a long time.
And a lot of people are comparing that block to what happened in the conference semifinals between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks when we saw what happened with Roy Hibbert and Carmelo Anthony. Everybody is comparing it to that. But like you said, Danny Green, he was the leading scorer for the San Antonio Spurs tonight with 17. Parker with 13. Duncan, he was, like you said, he started to get out a little bit in that second half, but he was off. He struggled a lot. And then everything that went happened with Thiago Splitter. If the San Antonio Spurs, if this game was competitive throughout, which it wasn't, and of course because by the score, we would have been talking about the role players again for the San Antonio Spurs like we did in Game 1. We would have been talking about Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard and also Gary Neal, who himself had 10 points and 3 of 7 shooting. But when I look at this, not only when you look at how many turnovers they had, because turnovers were really the story for the Spurs tonight. It was from start to finish. I mean, they had, if I'm not mistaken, they had 5 turnovers just in the first quarter alone, and they had 4 turnovers throughout the entire game 1. So turnovers were a huge issue tonight for the San Antonio Spurs, but also Manu Ginobili.
Yeah.
I want to talk about people that have done Houdini-like disappearing acts. We talked about it last year with James Harden and the Oklahoma City Thunder. What has happened to Manu Ginobili? People talk about the San Antonio Spurs Big 3. We got to talk about them possibly being only a Big 2 of Tony Parker and Tim Duncan unless Manu Ginobili is able to do what we've been accustomed to seeing him doing. Only 5 points, 2 of 6 shooting in this game, 18 minutes. Those are not Manu Ginobili-like numbers.
Yeah, I mean, the Spurs might be a big three, but it was with Danny Green tonight. It wasn't with Manu Ginobili. Ginobili, it hasn't even just been this series. These playoffs this season, he has really declined. I know he's talked about retiring after this season, and the way it's going, he might end up retiring because he is not playing very well throughout these NBA Finals so far. A few notes I want to get to, because obviously the Heat go on to win this game 103-84. The defense from the Heat was incredible. The defensive intensity at the end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter, and that's really what propelled this. It wasn't just one guy, it was a collective effort, and I think when the Heat do that, it allows them to get into transition and really take over a game. Now, you can't do that every minute of a game because it takes a ridiculous amount of energy, but when the Heat are able to swarm teams like that defensively, they are extremely dangerous, and especially on a night where Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili didn't have the best handles, that made it even easier for the Heat to go on that run. Now, the other thing I want to say is throughout the first 2 quarters, not only was LeBron James struggling on offense, but I thought defensively he was straying away from his men a little bit too much. There were times where he's guarding Danny Green and allowing him to hit wide open threes. So I think in general, LeBron James really did get bailed out tonight because he was headed for a well-deserved criticism on every national sports show tomorrow because he was not attacking. And really, the Spurs are closing. They're closing it so he's not able to just get to the rim. But LeBron James needs to go up and get into that contact rather than being the guy that is going to the contact and then dishing away every single time, I think.
Yeah, me too. Because like we talked about in the past, that's what LeBron James does. He's not the kind of player that you think, especially ever since he won that championship. He's not the kind of player that would pass off to other players and be that kind of facilitator. He's supposed to be the leader of the Miami Heat. This is his team. So he's supposed to be that guy that's supposed to draw that contact, that's supposed to go, that's supposed to penetrate into the paint and get to the free throw line. That's what we normally see from LeBron James. Now he does, like we talked about in the past, he doesn't have to put up 30 or 40 points a game every night. But as long as he's doing what he normally does, as long as he's able to have those 20 point and 10 rebound and even 10 assist performances, as long as he's able to put up either a double-double or a triple-double every night, I think that it's a good night for LeBron James on the stat sheet.
So far, LeBron James is averaging 17.5 points per game. That's about what he averaged 2 years ago when people said that he choked. Now, game 1, I didn't feel like he choked. I didn't feel like he played his best game. Tonight, through the first 2.5 quarters, he really was not impressive. But what allowed him to get going after that was he got himself involved in different ways. By setting screens, by rolling off the screens, by driving and dishing. And that's the greatness of LeBron James, is that even when he's not having a great shooting night, even when he's not playing great on defense, he was able to get involved in different ways tonight, and I think that was key in propelling this run down the stretch. I don't think that anyone should believe that LeBron James was a singular reason why the Heat won the game tonight, because he really overall did not play great. He padded the stats after the game was out of reach, but he did do some things that helped the Heat to get this game out of reach. I think coming in to Game 3, which will be on Tuesday, why they have a 3-day gap in between Game 1 and 2 when they're both in Miami, and then only a 2-day gap in between 2 and 3 when they're in different places. Don't ask me. But what I think they need to do is they need to get LeBron James involved earlier, because tonight was nice. Mario Chalmers, Ray Allen, everyone that was a role player for the Miami Heat played their role even a little bit better than I think they should be expected to. And it's just not realistic to think that that's going to happen for the rest of the series. It's not realistic to think that Tony Parker's going to only have 13 points. The Heat, and that Tim Duncan's going to be that bad from the field. LeBron James needs to get back involved, whether it means that Dwayne Wade takes less touches early on, whatever it is. The Heat need to get involved or get LeBron James involved earlier, because he cannot average 17.5 points per game in this series and expect to get his second ring.
Without a doubt, because what's going to happen is the San Antonio Spurs are definitely going to make adjustments. The Heat are definitely in this series. Everybody was talking about the possibility that the Heat would be going down to the San Antonio Spurs 2-0 going back to San Antonio. And if they were down 2 games, as if you would have pretty much just put a wrap on this series. Now they're back in this series. It's 1-1 going into San Antonio on this Tuesday. And you're right. Why they have only a 1-day gap when they got to travel is beyond me. That's only to accommodate ESPN and ABC, obviously. But like you said, Parker's not going to be this bad for the whole series. Duncan is not going to be this bad for the whole series. We know Popovich is going to make adjustments. Like we said before, he's got 4 championship rings, so he's going to make adjustments. And the Miami Heat and LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Mario Chalmers, and everybody else in the Miami Heat have definitely got to be ready, because I think that when we get to San Antonio, it's going to be when the Spurs play their best basketball.
Yeah, and it needs to be, because tonight, it was, like you mentioned earlier, they really blew a shot to Spurs tonight, because Kawhi Leonard played a pretty solid game. We saw Gary Neal play a solid game. Danny Green was amazing, and then the stars of Tim Duncan was 3 of 13, Tony Parker was 5 of 14, and then Manu Ginobili was 2 of 6 from the field. They shot 41% as a team. The stars really cost them a chance to go up 2-0 in this series, because the role players did their job. Now, Tiago Splitter needs to have a better game in Game 3 as well, but the stars really did cost them this game, because LeBron James did not play well. Chris Bosh was good, not great. Dwayne Wade was really good in the first half and then didn't do a ton in the second half. And then the Heat as a team took over late in this third quarter, and that's what allowed this series to be tied. Tracy McGrady does make his NBA Finals debut again, not how anyone anticipated, but Tracy McGrady has finally played in an NBA Finals game. And if this series does get back to Miami, Akeem, can we please get rid of that awful intro at the beginning of these games where you got this cheesy song and you got Ray Allen and Chris Bosh just like dancing around?
I know, right? Agreed. As far as the intro, I mean, you know, I'd rather hear Rick Ross in the intro rather than whatever they got going on in Miami. At least Rick Ross is from Miami. Heck, I'd take Pitbull over this intro. I know, right? What is this?
I don't know about that. And I hate Rick Ross too, but I definitely wouldn't go as far as Pitbull. But this was pretty bad, and it's really bad considering last year they had Paris. I think everyone knows what the real name of that song is. I'm not going to say it because that'll start some problem. Last year they had that. It was just like a pump-up intro, and this year you just have this song, Heat players dancing around, and when their name's called, they're not even running out, they're just doing whatever. The intros were horrendous in Miami. We'll go to San Antonio. I don't expect them to make a big deal. Miami's a weird town, and I guess they get away with that, but no matter what, they might be a weird town, but they get a damn good basketball team that gets a 103-84 win in Game 2 of the NBA Finals to even up the series at 1 games apiece, heading back to San Antonio for Games 3 through 5. I'm Tim Kelly for Akeem Balaam. We will catch you guys next time.